Quiet confidence is a subtle yet profound strength that emanates without the need for grand gestures or self-promotion. It's a form of assurance that doesn't need an audience or external validation to feel complete. Unlike loud confidence, which often demands recognition, quiet confidence sits patiently, steady, and unshakable. Because it knows its worth lies not in acknowledgement, but in self-acceptance. This kind of confidence isn't about diminishing ourselves or hiding away. It's about embodying an inner certainty that isn't dependent on others to see or validate. It's trusting in your skills, abilities, and unique strengths, knowing that they are real and worthy, even if no one else is aware of them. Quiet confidence isn't concerned with proving, justifying, or explaining itself. Instead, it embraces a calm presence that speaks volumes without needing to shout. With quiet confidence, there's no need to boast or elaborate on every success, every plan, or every ambition. This confidence knows that achievements are not diminished when they go unnoticed. In fact, there's a certain dignity in being content with knowing we did something meaningful, even if we're the only ones aware of it. When we allow ourselves to stand firmly in this quiet space, we're not giving up the chance to shine, we're simply choosing to do so on our own terms. Quiet confidence creates space for others too. It makes us better listeners, more understanding, and often more approachable because we're not caught up in proving ourselves or asserting our worth. Instead of competing to be heard, we allow others to share their own stories, making space for authentic, unguarded conversations. People are naturally drawn to this kind of confidence because it feels trustworthy and genuine. It doesn't require anyone else's approval to thrive. Quiet confidence by its nature is content being observed, felt, or even unrecognized because it rests on a foundation of self-trust and inner strength. When we embrace quiet confidence, we don't need to overstate or emphasize our abilities. We know our strengths, and we're comfortable letting them speak for themselves. In every setting, from professional circles to personal interactions, this quiet confidence invites others to see us as we are without embellishment, without exaggeration. It's this quiet assurance that allows us to walk through the world with a sense of peace, even when faced with challenges, because we trust ourselves enough to know that we're capable of handling whatever comes our way. There's an undeniable power in letting our actions speak louder than our words. In a world full of constant chatter, where everyone seems to have something to prove, letting our actions do the talking offers a quiet but profound strength. The truth is, words can be fleeting, they can be misinterpreted, misunderstood, or even manipulated. But actions true, authentic actions speak with a clarity and conviction that words often cannot match. They leave a lasting impression because they are grounded in reality. What we do reflects our character, values, and intentions more deeply than any description ever could. When we let our actions speak, we remove the need to justify ourselves, to constantly explain our choices, or to chase validation. There's a certain freedom in this. By focusing on doing rather than talking, we prioritize the impact of our work over the need for recognition or applause. Actions, after all, don't need an explanation, they simply are. And in their simplicity, they hold incredible weight. Think about it when someone shows up for you consistently, when they keep their promises, when they quietly work hard behind the scenes. That speaks far more than any verbal affirmation or boast. Words may tell a story, but actions show the truth. We don't need to announce every step we take or every effort we make. We don't need to document every achievement. The true measure of success lies in what we've done and how those actions resonate in the world around us. There's also an element of integrity in letting our actions do the speaking. By showing up, doing the work, and staying true to our commitments, we demonstrate who we really are. We reveal our values through what we do, not what we say. Our actions align with our intentions, creating a sense of harmony and trust that can't be easily broken. It's a reminder that our character is not defined by the words we use, but by the things we do when no one is looking, when there's no applause waiting at the end of the road. When we let our actions speak, we also give others the chance to notice and appreciate us without us having to ask for it. We create space for others to see the results of our efforts and draw their own conclusions, free from any influence or persuasion. We allow others to witness the value of our work, not because we told them about it, but because they can see it for themselves. This is the essence of quiet strength, the ability to stand tall without the need to proclaim it aloud, letting our efforts be the evidence of our commitment, our passion, and our dedication. By focusing on actions, we also shift the spotlight from ourselves to the impact we create. When we concentrate on the results of our efforts rather than the recognition we receive, we develop a sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing we're contributing something meaningful. It's not about being in the spotlight, it's about making a difference in a way that speaks for itself. And in doing so, we find a deeper sense of purpose, one that is not dependent on praise or validation, but on the genuine satisfaction of knowing we've done our best. In the end, actions have the power to transcend any words we could ever say. They speak directly to the heart, to the essence of who we are, and to the impact we have on the world around us. By letting our actions take the lead, we communicate more powerfully and more authentically than we ever could through our words alone. Building internal motivation is about cultivating a deep, unwavering drive that comes from within, rather than relying on external factors such as praise, recognition, or rewards. It's a force that pushes us to pursue our goals even when no one is watching, when there's no applause to encourage us, and when the path ahead is unclear. Internal motivation is rooted in purpose, finding a reason that is deeply personal and meaningful, one that transcends fleeting external circumstances. When we tap into this well of motivation, we no longer need validation from the outside world because we've already tapped into something far more powerful and enduring. The beauty of internal motivation is that it is self-sustaining. Unlike external rewards, which can be fleeting and conditional, internal motivation arises from a place of genuine desire. It comes from a deep understanding of why we do what we do, not just from the outcome, but from the journey itself. This understanding helps us push through obstacles, face challenges head on, and continue moving forward when the initial excitement fades. When we know why something matters to us on a fundamental level, it becomes easier to stay committed to it, even when the rewards are delayed or unseen. To build internal motivation, we must first identify our core values and beliefs. What is it that we stand for? What do we truly care about? Not because it's what others expect of us, but because it aligns with who we are and what we want to achieve in life. This is not about surface level desires or goals that are shaped by societal expectations. It's about digging deep to uncover the desires that live within us, the ones that will sustain us even when the going gets tough. When we are aligned with our values, we tap into a well of motivation that doesn't run dry, no matter the challenges we face. Once we've identified what matters most to us, it's crucial to connect with the feeling of intrinsic satisfaction that comes from doing something because we want to, not because we have to. This satisfaction is the reward in itself. It's the sense of pride that comes from creating something meaningful, from improving ourselves, or from helping others without the need for someone to pat us on the back or give us a trophy. When we rely on internal motivation, we begin to see the process, not just the end result, as fulfilling. Every small step forward becomes its own form of reward because it is driven by an inner sense of accomplishment and pride. Building internal motivation also requires a mindset shift. Instead of focusing on external outcomes or milestones, we start focusing on the present moment. We shift our attention to the effort and the growth we experience along the way, rather than just the goal itself. This change in perspective makes the journey more meaningful and less dependent on outcomes. We begin to recognize that each step we take, no matter how small, is part of a greater purpose, and this recognition fuels our drive to keep going. There is also power in self-discipline when it comes to nurturing internal motivation. By setting small, manageable goals and holding ourselves accountable to them, we build a sense of trust in ourselves. This self-trust is essential for internal motivation because when we prove to ourselves that we can follow through, we create a positive feedback loop that propels us forward. The more we achieve, even in small ways, the more we believe in our own ability to succeed, which in turn reinforces our drive to keep going. Another key aspect of building internal motivation is resilience, the ability to stay focused and committed even when things get difficult. Life will always throw challenges our way, and it's easy to get discouraged when we encounter obstacles. However, internal motivation gives us the strength to keep moving forward, knowing that the challenges we face are part of our growth and development. We don't quit when things get hard. Instead, we tap into our inner strength and find new ways to overcome the setbacks. Lastly, building internal motivation is an ongoing process. It's not something we achieve once and for all, it's something we nurture and strengthen over time. We must continuously remind ourselves of our why, our purpose, and our values. When we do this, our internal motivation becomes a driving force that helps us overcome doubts, fears, and external pressures. It becomes an anchor, keeping us grounded even when everything else seems uncertain or chaotic. And as we continue to nurture it, we find that our ability to stay motivated and focused on what truly matters grows stronger with every passing day. Avoiding unnecessary pressure is an essential practice for maintaining our mental, emotional, and physical well-being in a world that often demands more than we are capable of giving. The pressure to perform, to exceed expectations, or to live up to someone else's ideals can be overwhelming, especially when it comes from external sources, society, family, friends, or even our own self-imposed standards. The key to avoiding unnecessary pressure is to learn how to recognize when pressure is unwarranted, how to manage the weight of expectations, and how to release the need to constantly prove ourselves. One of the first steps in avoiding unnecessary pressure is to set clear boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut people out, but rather guidelines that allow us to protect our time, energy, and mental space. When we are able to communicate our limits to others, we are taking responsibility for our own well-being. Without boundaries, we can easily fall victim to the expectations of others, leaving us feeling drained, overworked, or disconnected from our true priorities. Boundaries help us to prioritize our own needs without feeling guilty or selfish. By clearly defining what we are willing to give, we create space to focus on what truly matters without feeling overwhelmed by external demands. Another crucial aspect of avoiding unnecessary pressure is learning how to say no without fear of disappointing others. Many of us struggle with the fear of letting others down, so we say yes to things that don't align with our values, or that we simply don't have the capacity to take on. This constant need to please others creates a cycle of stress and burnout. Saying no is not an act of rejection, but a form of self-respect. It's an acknowledgement that we cannot give our best to everyone and everything, and that our time and energy are finite resources. When we say no to things that don't serve our well-being, we open up the space to say yes to the things that truly matter, those that contribute to our growth, happiness, and sense of purpose. We must also confront the pressure that comes from within, the pressure we place on ourselves to be perfect, to achieve at all costs, or to meet unrealistic standards. This internal pressure is often more damaging than any external expectations because it comes from the belief that our worth is tied to our accomplishments. The truth is, we don't need to constantly prove ourselves to be valuable. Our value is inherent, not based on what we achieve or how much we do. Recognizing this fact helps to release the grip of perfectionism, allowing us to take a more compassionate approach to ourselves. It's important to understand that we are allowed to make mistakes, to fail, and to have moments where we aren't performing at our best. These moments are not a reflection of our worth, but part of the human experience. To avoid unnecessary pressure, we also need to develop the ability to disconnect from external noise and societal expectations. We live in a world that constantly tells us what success looks like, what happiness should be, and how we should show up in the world. Social media, advertisements, and the people around us bombard us with messages that can create feelings of inadequacy or self-doubt. To protect ourselves from these pressures, it's essential to filter out the noise and focus on what is authentic to us. We have to remind ourselves that success looks different for everyone, and that our path doesn't have to match anyone else's. By tuning out the pressure to conform, we can create space for our own unique journey, one that is shaped by our personal values and desires. In addition, it's important to recognize that we don't have to carry everything on our own. There is a great deal of pressure in trying to do it all, juggling work, personal life, relationships, and all the other responsibilities we face on a daily basis. Often we take on too much because we don't want to burden others or because we feel it's our responsibility to be everything for everyone. But this kind of pressure is unnecessary and at times harmful. We don't need to bear the weight of the world on our shoulders. Asking for help, whether from a friend, family member, or colleague, is not a sign of weakness. It's an acknowledgement of our humanity and the reality that we are not alone in this journey. By sharing the load, we lighten our own burden and reduce the pressure we place on ourselves to handle everything perfectly. Another way to avoid unnecessary pressure is by focusing on progress rather than perfection. In a world that often values outcomes over processes, it's easy to get caught up in the idea that success means achieving something perfectly right away. However, this kind of pressure can be paralyzing and discouraging. Instead of aiming for perfection, we should celebrate progress no matter how small the steps may seem. Each step forward, each lesson learned, and each improvement made is worth acknowledging. When we focus on the process rather than the end result, we take the pressure off of ourselves to be perfect and give ourselves permission to grow at our own pace. Finally, self-compassion plays a pivotal role in avoiding unnecessary pressure. Being kind to ourselves, especially when things don't go as planned, helps us to release the fear of failure and the pressure to constantly perform. We must remember that we are human, and part of being human is experiencing setbacks, challenges, and mistakes. Instead of criticizing ourselves for every misstep, we can learn to embrace these moments as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. By practicing self-compassion, we take away the harsh pressure we often place on ourselves, allowing ourselves to be more present and focused on what truly matters. Avoiding unnecessary pressure doesn't mean we abandon responsibility or stop striving for growth and success. It means we make conscious choices to prioritize our well-being, our values, and our mental health above external expectations. It's about learning to say no when necessary, letting go of perfectionism, and creating space for self-care and reflection. By doing so, we free ourselves from the weight of unnecessary demands, allowing us to approach life with a sense of balance, purpose, and peace. Encouraging deep listening is about more than just hearing the words someone else is saying. It's about fully engaging with them on a level that transcends surface-level communication. In a world where distractions are everywhere and conversations are often rushed or interrupted, deep listening can feel like a rare and undervalued skill. Yet it's one of the most powerful ways to build trust, foster empathy, and create meaningful connections with others. Deep listening requires us to slow down, to be present, and to genuinely seek to understand the speaker's experience, emotions, and perspective. It's a practice that nurtures both our relationships with others and our understanding of ourselves. To engage in deep listening, we must first make a conscious decision to put aside our own thoughts, judgments, and biases. Often when someone is speaking, we're already planning our response or thinking about how their words relate to our own experiences. But true listening requires us to let go of these distractions. It means resisting the urge to interrupt, to offer advice, or to jump into problem-solving mode. Instead, we focus entirely on the person in front of us, creating space for them to express themselves without the fear of being cut off or misunderstood. This level of attentiveness helps the speaker feel seen and valued, which in turn encourages a more open and honest exchange. Deep listening also involves tuning into nonverbal cues, body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice, Often, what is unsaid holds as much significance as what is being spoken. People communicate emotions, thoughts, and intentions through their posture, gestures, and even their silences. When we listen deeply, we pay attention to these subtle cues and interpret them within the context of what is being said. This requires us to be aware not only of the words, but of the emotional undercurrent that runs through the conversation. By observing these nonverbal signals, we demonstrate that we are attuned to the speaker's inner experience and are committed to understanding them on a deeper level. One of the most transformative aspects of deep listening is the ability to withhold judgment. It's natural for us to form opinions based on our own experiences, but when we listen deeply, we consciously set aside those judgments and allow the speaker to share their truth without fear of criticism or rejection. We may not agree with everything the other person says, but deep listening requires us to create a space where they can express themselves without the need to defend or justify their words. This doesn't mean we abandon our own beliefs or values, but it means we honor the other person's perspective as valid and worthy of consideration. It's a practice that fosters respect and understanding, even when our viewpoints differ. In deep listening, there's also a sense of curiosity. We approach the conversation with an open mind, eager to learn more about the other person's experience. Instead of assuming we know what they're going to say or jumping to conclusions, we ask thoughtful questions that invite the speaker to explore their thoughts more deeply. These questions are open-ended, allowing the conversation to unfold naturally, and they convey a genuine interest in the speaker's perspective. This kind of inquiry shows that we are invested in their story and that we value their voice. It encourages the speaker to reflect more deeply on their own feelings and experiences, which can lead to greater self-awareness and insight. Deep listening requires patience and presence. In a fast-paced world where we are often multitasking or distracted, it can be difficult to give our full attention to another person. But when we engage in deep listening, we commit to being fully present in the moment. We stop checking our phones, looking at our watches, or thinking about the next task on our to-do list. We give the speaker the gift of our undivided attention, which signals that their words matter. This commitment to being present is one of the most powerful ways we can show someone that we care and that we are genuinely interested in what they have to say. In addition, deep listening involves empathy, the ability to connect with and understand the emotions behind the speaker's words. It's not just about understanding their perspective intellectually, but about tuning into their emotional experience. When we listen with empathy, we are able to recognize the underlying feelings that may be driving their words, whether it's fear, sadness, frustration, or joy. We acknowledge these emotions without judgment and create space for them to be expressed. Empathy allows us to respond in a way that resonates with the speaker's experience, rather than offering a quick fix or brushing aside their feelings. It's a way of showing that we not only hear them, but also feel with them. Deep listening can also be transformative in that it can help us learn and grow. When we listen deeply, we open ourselves to new ideas, perspectives, and experiences. We become more receptive to the diversity of thought and opinion that exists in the world, and we begin to recognize that our own viewpoint is only one among many. This openness allows us to broaden our understanding of others and of ourselves. We learn more about how others navigate the world and what drives their decisions, which can lead to greater compassion and insight. Moreover, deep listening fosters a sense of safety and trust in our relationships. When people feel that they are truly being heard, they are more likely to be open and vulnerable. This kind of listening creates a space where people can express themselves honestly without fear of being dismissed or misunderstood. As trust deepens, so does the quality of the connection. People feel valued, respected, and understood, which strengthens the foundation of any relationship, whether personal or professional. The more we practice deep listening, the more we create environments where people feel safe to speak their truth, and this strengthens the bonds between us. In many ways, deep listening is an act of love and respect. It is a way of honoring the other person's experience and demonstrating that their words matter. It's about creating a space where they can share openly, knowing that they will not be judged, interrupted, or dismissed. By practicing deep listening, we not only improve our relationships, but also deepen our understanding of the world and our place within it. It's a skill that requires practice and intention, but the rewards are immeasurable, a more connected, empathetic, and compassionate way of interacting with the people around us. In conclusion, learning to listen deeply is a transformative practice that can profoundly impact our relationships, our communities, and our own personal growth. It requires us to be present, to set aside our own judgments, and to engage with others on a level that transcends mere conversation. Through deep listening, we cultivate empathy, build trust, and create meaningful connections that foster mutual understanding and respect. As we make the conscious effort to truly hear those around us, we open ourselves to a richer, more compassionate way of being in the world, one where every voice is valued and every story is honored. By embracing the art of deep listening, we not only change the way we relate to others, but also enrich our own lives in ways we never imagined possible.